Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways, Torah Life.
Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries, and we have the Torah reading number 4, the fourth Torah reading of the cycle, and in this week it's Genesis 18:1 to 22:24. And in this week's Torah portion we're going to be talking about Abraham, and we're going to be talking about Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah and several different things. But there's so much in these Torah readings each week we can learn. The Torah is the guidelines and instructions of our Creator. It comes from the first 5 books of the Scriptures. We're reading from Genesis, which in Hebrew is Bereshit, which means beginning. You cannot understand the end or the middle or anything if you don't understand the beginning. So here we go. This week we see the angels appear to Abraham and tell him that he's going to give birth to a son. Well, his wife Sarah is going to give birth to his son. Now, what Sarah do? Sarah laughed and said, "No way. I'm already past the age of childbearing." Sarah was not young. But we look at this here. It says, Abraham and Sarah were old and advanced in years. Sarah was past the age of childbearing. That is in Genesis 18:11. Well, why is this important? Why is this important to know? Well, we're going to look at that later. Just keep that in mind. But we're going to move on to... we're going to look at the angels. After they left Abraham, they were going to the land of Sodom and Gomorrah. The outcry from there was so big. It says here in Genesis 18:20, it says, Yahweh said, "The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great that their sin is so serious. I will go down there and see if this is true." So he goes down there and he sees it is. The immorality that was there was just atrocious and an abomination to Yahweh. You know what the scary thing is though? It's no different than the immorality of the world today. It is so bad today, and the same sins that they were doing back then, the immorality, it's happening today. And Yeshua says he's coming back when the times are like it was during the times of Sodom and Gomorrah. So we look at this and we just look at what's happening today. I mean, there are things that are happening in the world today that the Bible clearly calls an abomination. But people are, homosexuals or gay marriages and all this. This is an abomination to Yahweh, people. We shouldn't be supporting it. It's not my opinion. It's what the Scriptures say. It's abomination. You either believe in Yahweh's word or not. But I tell you, His word says it, and His word also says the result that was happened. And guess what? Why it was so bad and such an abomination in times of Sodom and Gomorrah? Because of the homosexuality that was going on back then. Because the immorality that was going on around back then. And it's the same thing today. And if you don't think His judgment is coming and it's coming soon, you are fooled and deceived. But Yahweh does have mercy. Abraham said, "Do you not take mercy for those that are righteous living in this land amongst this abomination?" And he said, "What if there are 50 righteous amongst this land?" In this week's Torah. And Yahweh said, "I will spare them for those 50. What if there are 45? I will spare them. What if there are 40? What if..." And he couldn't find 10 righteous people in Sodom and Gomorrah. And it wasn't spared. It was destroyed. Lot and his family, however, were spared and told to leave immediately before destruction comes. Out of His mercy. So here comes the destruction. There goes Lot. And he says, do not turn around. Yahweh says, do not look back. Just keep going where I told you to go for refuge. Just keep going where I told you to go for refuge. But you know what happened? Lot's wife disobeyed him. Disobeyed Yahweh and turned around to look back. She disobeyed the instructions and she was part of the destruction. Turned into a pillar of salt. Lot and his daughters, they kept running. They didn't turn back and they were spared. So we go on and we look at this week's Torah Parashah and we see some other interesting things here. A lot of people always ask me about the topic of wine in the Scriptures. And I could tell you one of the most dangerous things out there today is alcohol. I mean, it is a serious issue. It's a serious problem. Alcohol is just plain out. It's sin. It's bad. It destroys our memory. It destroys. It says in the Scriptures we have to be of a sober mind. But how can we be in a sober mind if we're drunk? And some people say, well, alcohol's okay, but getting drunk isn't. Well, guess what happens when you drink alcohol? You get drunk. Your mind is disordered. And people say, well, I just don't drink a lot. Well, you know what? You don't have to drink a lot if you've never drinking. Even a little's going to get you to be messed up. And I tell you, I don't drink, and if I took one sip of wine, I would get pretty buzzed. But the more I do it, I'd get used to it. And then I could do a lot, and that's not healthy for the body, but I could do a lot and not get buzzed. Well, that's not the case. How do you know when too much is too much? When you already get drunk? Well, this happened here. We look at Lot and his daughters, who were the only ones that they thought were around. They thought nobody else was left. So his daughters said, let's get our father drunk and sleep with him so we can reproduce and have more babies. Well, again, the scriptures call this an abomination. And this is the abomination and the consequences that happen from that. First of all, they gave Lot, I don't know how much wine he drank. He probably thought, oh, there's nothing wrong with this wine and it's fine. And just like a lot of people do today, next thing you know, he's sleeping with his daughters and he didn't even know it. I mean, you have to be seriously drunk. You have to have seriously a lot of wine for something like that to happen. But that's how people abuse these things today. The same abominations that are going around today. So he sleeps with his daughters. And then we look at the result of these things. We look at, the older daughter giving birth to Moab, which becomes the tribe of Moab, which we see later, who tries to deceive Israel through their immorality, through their sexual immorality, trying to get them to sacrifice to other idols. You know, if that never happened with Lot and his daughter, there wouldn't have been that situation. But how many men were led away with the Moab women because because of this situation that happened right here? You see, something might have happened a very long time ago, but if it was an abomination to Yahweh back then, it's still an abomination today. And if you didn't suffer from the consequences back then, that does not mean you're not going to suffer from the consequence today. You can never escape living an immoral life. So I don't care if you're out there and you're running around a homosexual and saying every woman has their right to murder a baby and everything else. And you might not see the consequences immediately, but you will see the consequences at some point. For living against the instructions and the guidelines of our Creator Yahweh, there are consequences always. And we must understand this. So we go on and we look at the rest of this. We go on to see what it says here. And when Abraham went into the foreign cities, Abraham said to his wife Sarah, tell them you're my sister. Now he wasn't lying because he was a half-sister. But he didn't want them to destroy him, to take his wife, because he thought, oh, she's so beautiful that they're going to take you away and they're going to destroy me and everything else. And that's exactly what happened here. We see in Genesis 19:20, we see Abraham go into the foreign land of Negev. And he told his wife Sarah, tell him you're my sister. And they saw her and they wanted to take her away. And they took her away immediately. But she wasn't young. They took her away. She was so beautiful and everything else, but she wasn't young. She was past the age of childbearing. Amazing. Amazing how it says, and Yahweh says in the scriptures, a true woman, her true beauty comes out by the actions she does and by the way she presents her life. And then you see here, you see with Abraham's wife, she was old. Physically, she was old. But her beauty came out of her heart. And that's when these men in Egypt and these men in this city here, when they saw her, they just had to have her. They had to take her away from Abraham. It's amazing how our beauty shines through our heart, and that's where real beauty comes from. And then we go on to the most significant part of this week's reading. We look at the faith of Abraham. The faith of Abraham, who took his only son through Sarah. Now he had another son which led to many other issues which we spoke about last week. But he took Isaac and he took him to sacrifice him. So we see here through his faith that he took him to sacrifice him. Now a lot of people, again, who don't know the scriptures, don't understand the beauty of this story and the mercy that Yahweh shows people that are faithful. But Yahweh says here in Genesis 22:11, don't lay a hand on the boy. Yahweh stops him from committing this act of destroying his son and the descendants of Abraham. But Yahweh wanted to test Abraham and see his faith. And he did that. And, you know, that's what the scriptures are about, everybody. You could take the Torah, you could take the Gospels, and you could take Revelations, and you have everything that's going to happen in the scripture, past, present, and future, and everything you need to know about Messiah, Yeshua, and everything to do with the scriptures. However, all the books in scriptures, including those books, are set as examples and models for us, how to live our lives and the circumstances that will happen in our lives depending on how we react to the situation. There's no situation in the book that's not a situation that hasn't happened in one of our lives at some point in the past, present, or future, and we can see the best way to handle it and the outcome that will come. But if we handle it the wrong way, just like in the scriptures, just like today, the outcome will not be pleasant. So everybody, we have the information, we have the guide how to do that. This is the Torah Parashah for this week, and everyone have a great week out there, have a great Shabbat, and we will be in Texas next week celebrating Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles. If you're watching this video, go to my website, TorahLifeMinistries.org, and just click under events, and you can see where that'll be. And I'll also be doing another talk in Texas next Shabbat. All right, everybody, this is Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries saying have a great day, and we'll see you again soon.
Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways.